Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Yustineu from Department of Accounting. I will explain about how to do the research. The first is where it. It is impossible to carry out research without engaging in much direct reading. So it will be unusual to do so without any new reading. This may happen, for example, where the constraints and the time available do not allow for much reading, or where the method and context are familiar, or where the researcher involved are being employed simply to administer questionnaires or carry out interviews for someone else. The second is coping with the research literature. To the novice researcher, it can seem like there is so much that needs reading, and that it is so difficult to get on top of or make sense of it. More experienced researcher, you may or may not be relieved to know, can have much the same concern, but the new researcher may feel overwhelmed by the magnitude of these demands for quite a long time. You may be concerned about the volume of literature. The amount of material written on most subjects is already high and expanding at an ever-increasing rate. The variety of literature. There are so many kinds of literature. For example, journal, magazine, newspaper, police domain, academic papers, which may be relevant. Lack of boundaries. Unless a project is very tightly defined, it may be impossible to judge which areas of the literature are relevant. Conflicting argument. As soon as you start reading, you are likely to be confronted by different opinions, arguments, and interpretations. The third, where to read. The obvious place to read, at least up until the last few years, may seem to be the library. Particularly, if you are doing a research project in academic setting, libraries come, of course, in different guises. The other obvious place to read nowadays is on your computer, making use of some of the vast range of material available through the internet. Compared to libraries, the material available on the internet is so much more variable in quality. You do of course need to have access to a computer and internet connection. The fourth is what to read. The short answer to the question of what to read has to be to read as much and as many different kinds or sources of text as possible. This will enable you to encounter a range of views and forms of presentation within the different kinds of writing appropriate to your topic. The kind of thing you might read could include books, journal, reports, and popular media. 5 is whom to read. In doing so, it is important to be aware of whom you are reading, where they are coming from, how authoritative a voice they have, and what their motivation in writing might be. In part, your aim should be to read a range of views, exploring both the founding thinkers and the great names of your field and the diversity of current opinions. Remember, however, that everybody is capable of being mistaken in their opinions or interpretation. That is, after all, the purpose of research writing, to stimulate further thinking. You should be able to get plenty of guidance and whom to read, at least to start with from your supervisor, manager, colleagues, or fellow researcher. Some of the kinds of search mentioned above, particularly literature reviews, are also excellent place to go for suggestion on who to read. That is for me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.